Everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'm here joined with Noon from Visa First, and we're in the CloonTech office. I'm very excited to welcome you all to our webinar on the topic of Ireland's talent acquisition and immigration in a competitive global market. And yeah, I'm very excited. How are you keeping?
Delighted to join Leah today. We just long story that how we met and how this webinar came to place. Maybe you want to start?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So Noon and I, we met at a networking event, was hosted by the Chamber, and we just got talking, and we realized that we really do share the passion for international and multilingual candidates. Me, obviously, from a recruitment perspective, I'll introduce myself in just a second, but yeah, maybe we'll just start off by giving a quick overview of what we're going to cover today, what the goal is for today, and then we go from there. Yeah,
right.
Cool. So, yeah. So about the content, so we'll quickly introduce ourselves, and then we'll talk about the current state of the multilingual market. We'll have a brief look into how it even developed to get to the state of today. We'll touch upon what is in demand, what languages, what roles are currently really sought after, and then we'll chat about different strategies that you can follow as a company to attract and to source for multilingual and international candidates. We'll touch upon things and strategies you can do to stay competitive, and then you'll touch upon the current Irish immigration market. Yeah, cool. So that's it for today. I'll be probably spilling the tea of the recruitment here, but I'll be sharing loads of many insights and tips and tricks here. So definitely stay tuned. So about myself, maybe first, and then you can take over. My name is Leah. As you can probably hear, I'm German native. I'm a German native multilingual recruitment consultant. I joined Morgan McKinley a year ago exactly. So I moved over from Germany. I've been through the relocation process myself, and I focus on everything that requires language-based recruitment. So if you're looking for, let's say, German candidates or Dutch or Finnish, pretty much all languages across positions, you would kind of be probably in touch with me. I've previously, before joining Morgan McKinley, also worked in the recruitment space and in Germany in in-house and external recruitment. And I have a background in psychology, so I'm very passionate about supporting people. And yeah, that's pretty much me. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Noon Troy, Visa First, and just joined Visa First probably similar time a year ago. Relocated from Thailand, again, similar thing that go through the relocation process myself, either it's visa or home search, apartment search, moving stuff. And I was in global mobility services for half of the decades before I moved here and joined Visa First. I'm really passionate about global mobility for international talents and moving countries, either inbound or outbound. And yeah, that's why I am so passionate and so interested in the topics when Leah first chat with me at the Dublin Chamber events. And that's why we have this webinar.
Yeah, it's really great. We just really shared this passion, and it was every chat we had was so insightful. So we decided to just come up with this and bring this topic a little closer. I might just say a few things about Morgan McKinley as well, if you haven't heard of us before. We are an Irish-owned global people consultancy, so we are a recruitment agency based or founded in Cork. We have a global presence, so this is kind of relevant to given global mobility as well. So we have an office here in Dublin. I'm based in Dublin. I recruit across Ireland, but globally we're present in Toronto, Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney. So it's really nice that we're so globally present, and we also have this international reach, which is kind of relevant from a candidate perspective as well. Just wanted to give you an insight here into kind of what we do. I'd say, like, just given the time, we might just jump into the first topic. And
well, between this session, you might see a live chat or Q&A chat box there, so you can drop any questions you have or any comments that you have, and we have the team monitoring the live chat session as well, and we'll get back to that at the end of each topics.
Yeah, definitely. So just pop questions in as we go. And if you have like any follow-up questions, feel free to share them with us. So yeah, then let's maybe chat about the talent acquisition market at the minute. So obviously from a multilingual perspective, but before we even talk about the current state, I think it's really relevant to just have a quick glimpse at the history, how it developed, and why there is even a multilingual market in the first place. Going back a few years, so pretty much since like 2000, the Irish economy really had steady growth. That was due to multiple factors, but one of them was 100% the low tax rate. So lots of very international offices or multinational companies and firms relocated to Ireland. So I'd say around maybe since then, like 1,500 companies or something relocated, open up their offices, their European HQs here as well. So you probably, people that are based here in Ireland have probably seen the Meta office or LinkedIn or eBay and so on. So lots of very multinational firms. And this kind of just formed a hub, let's say, for international businesses. And obviously this kind of attracts candidates, right? Like working in an international environment is really interesting. So following this trend, more and more candidates also came over. And I'd say the space then for the multilingual professionals were kind of formed. And I also have a few fun facts here. So since like in general, like over the past decades, all right, like loads of professionals kind of immigrated. But since 2016, there had been a 23% increase alone in residents speaking another language than English. So by now in Ireland, we have over, what was it, like 182 different languages present, which is crazy, right?
That's a lot.
Just to think about, yeah. And so just kind of all these things came together. And one thing that really impacted this growth and also the development of the multilingual market was, simply speaking, the Brexit. All right, yeah. So it's the only English-speaking country here in the European Union, and really attractive just for professionals, for young professionals. So many students are coming over to study here, and that kind of shaped, I'd say, the market as it is right now. And when we look into the different hubs in Ireland, I'd say Dublin is definitely on top. Lots of multinational firms are based here. And other bigger cities would be probably Cork, Limerick, and Galway. So if you are looking to hire multilingual talents, I'd say look into the bigger hubs, just because it's just more attractive, I guess, to multi-professionals. Yeah, before we also talk about the market itself, it's probably very beneficial to speak about the benefits of hiring multilingual candidates or internationals in general. So one of the reasons more and more companies are looking into the multilingual recruitment is because you can just explore a full new territory. Like especially in Europe, you have the DACH market, that would be Germany, Austria, Switzerland. You have the Benelux countries, being Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, or then the Nordics covering Denmark, Sweden, and Norwegian. And it's just such a big territory that you can explore when you have speakers or employees that speak that language. So hiring multilingual candidates can really help you to explore and expand businesses, generate more sales, and so on. Just because they are able to understand the customer needs, they're able to provide customer service on a different level, and also to understand the culture. And I'd say this is really essential if you want to generate sales, if you want to expand your business. And another reason why it is very beneficial, and I do speak of experience, is you just enhance your reputation and your credibility. So if a candidate knows, oh, that company is hiring multilingual candidates, it's very attractive. So you can you don't only show that you're interested in hiring internationals and like that kind of improve your diversity, but also to like reach out to new businesses, because they see, oh yeah, okay, they are working on a multinational level and would be open to do business across cultures and areas pretty much. So I'd say this is why it's really beneficial. And in terms of the market, what is the market looking like at the moment? So yeah, it is a funny market, I'm not gonna lie. It's been going up and down the past year since actually joining. One of the reasons for the whole market change was definitely the tech layoffs. So the tech space has been affected and cut loads of multilingual speakers on a contract base or in the customer support area. But still, what we do see is tech is still one of the industries that would hire a lot in the sales area now. So once again, expanding businesses, trying to grow businesses. There's been a lot of focus on sales development representatives, business development representatives, account managers. And this is kind of how the market changed. So last year when I joined, it was pretty much like customer support focused, and now it's been a switch to sales. And when it comes to the languages, it just reflects what I said there. It would be German, it would be Dutch and Nordics. I know Nordics is really broad, but probably like Swedish or Norwegian and Danish. And these are the top languages in the top, let's say like occupations and industries we would work a lot with tech, pharmaceutical, FMCG, and yeah, like professional services in general. So these are kind of like how it switched and what is pretty much the demand at the moment on the market. Yeah.
Do you see the numbers? Sorry.
That's okay. Please ask.
Do you see the numbers comparing to like 22 and 23? Do you see that has been growing? Do you see the big difference since you joined or since you relocated?
Yeah. So definitely there has been a big switch. Like once again, a year ago, it was really heavy on customer support, content moderation roles, whereas now it's really sales. It's so much sales roles. In terms of how it switched, like before it was loads of, so we can hire on different contracts, all right? So there's permanent contract, there's temporary contracts, or fixed term contracts. And before it was kind of balanced, I'd say. It was always a little bit more permanent in that space, but now it's pretty much like 80% perm and 20% contract. And so, yeah, so there's been a big shift for the market and the way companies hire. Like other numbers, I don't know.
Yeah, like you mentioned culture there, that it's very vital.
Yeah.
Like that the benefits that when employers hire multilingual talents to like relocate here in Ireland or either country even, culture, how culture is so important.
Oh yeah, the culture, I mean, like in general, the culture really matters. Like we'll talk about this as well, like when we talk about I'd say just things to take into consideration when hiring multilingual candidates. But culture really matters because every culture is a little different. There's not one culture is better than the other. This is not where I'm going, but it is really important to take all this into consideration when hiring multilingual candidates. Just because, like, let's say, I'm just like Germans, the best example, because I am German and I've also lived in the Netherlands before. I lived here in Ireland. And Germans have a very specific way of communication. And if Germans are joining this webinar, don't feel offended, but we are quite direct. And I've learned that the hard way as well, like joining Morgan McKinley, it's a lovely company, but it's fully Irish owned. So it's like mostly Irish employees. And I've learned, like, I really had to adjust it. I was just like, can you sign this contract for me without having to chit chat about the weather or like how are you doing? And I've really learned to adjust it in a sense. So culture really matters and should be taken into consideration. But I'd say we're gonna touch upon this like in the next topic as well. Yeah, like just so given the change on the market, the sales roles being more relevant now, I'd say it also reflects in the skills that are more relevant. So there has been a shift a little bit. Like customer service is always relevant across positions, but lots of cold calling would be kind of the skill necessary. Relationship management, especially in these times more than ever, having good and strong relationship really matters. And the language key is still the key, I'd say, for hard skills. And when it comes to soft skills, we do see that just given also the limited workforce available in Ireland, having a strong interpersonal skill really matters, and is one of the top soft skills that my clients would be looking for.
I heard that like it surprised me now that like tends to be that soft skill is very, very important now for employees to possess that when they are looking for job, or employers is looking for that. They kind of looking for those who
100%.
You are right about that, like personal.
It is like you can find top talent or like really experienced people, really well-educated people, but especially if you have a diverse team with a diverse culture, it matters so much that they have strong interpersonal skills. They need to be able to obviously work in a team that is really mixed. You need people that have also the emotional intelligence. In a sense, like this is probably a little off topic here, like my psychology side is coming through, but you need people that are able to work in a team and having an understanding maybe for especially the different way cultures work is so essential for smooth communication, working effectively with each other. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably
That's the trends.
That's the trends, really. Yeah. Do you have any questions for us on the trends?
Yeah, like just leave your questions there, and we if we get back to that if there's any question come up.
Shall we get back to that? Yeah. Cool. I
think we cannot really see the questions now. Screen's a bit far, but that's fine. I think we can get back to that later.
Yeah, we can move on for now. Yeah. And then we'll come back if there are any questions. Cool. So the second topic that we definitely wanted to touch upon and talk about is the different strategies. And I know that multilingual recruitment is becoming a thing now. It's more established than before, and it's kind of still developing and growing a lot. So there are certain strategies that you can follow, and I'll just spill the tea here. So sharing all my insights. I'm still a very good recruiter, so reach out to me. No, but
take your notes.
Take your notes. Like I work multilingual roles all day, every day. So I work with multilingual candidates on a daily basis. This is literally my business. So I'm very, very lucky that I'm part of Morgan McKinley because we have the global presence. So luckily, there are lots of candidates reaching out to us directly, and lots of candidates that maybe have seen us somewhere else, and just then reach out to me and be like, oh, I'm looking for a job in Ireland. I'd be interested in that. And then as well, we, once again, we have the global presence. So we also build up really, really strong talent pool over the years. So we have an internal database that I personally love to use to just source my candidates. Especially, I always find candidates that are not on LinkedIn in our internal database. It's really, really handy. And this is obviously a strategy that I can follow. But
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'll answer your questions later.
Yeah. But it's really handy to have a really strong internal database that we can use. Then another thing is when it comes to sourcing. So obviously, one of my favorite tools is LinkedIn. It's really popular these days. You just need to be trained in using LinkedIn correctly. You need the advanced search, and you need to know what keywords you're looking for to find the right talents. But it's definitely very doable with LinkedIn to find good multilingual candidates. One thing, like one tip, like look, I'm happy to share some of my tips here, but would be to, especially when it comes to languages, check out the local language. Like I know lots of my candidates have their LinkedIn profile in their native language, which means that they probably don't have English job titles. So sometimes, at least for me, it works really well. If I look for German, I'll just try the German work title, and then I usually find a few more candidates that maybe haven't updated their LinkedIn or that don't have an English version of their LinkedIn. So using the local language can really help as well. And just because we have a limited workforce available here in Ireland, look beyond the scope of Ireland, or even if you're hiring in Dublin, try to consider hiring in Cork or generally like a remote option maybe, just to reach out to more talents and to not miss out on top talents. And if you look in the local or in the countries that in the desired countries, then also check out the local social networks. So for instance, in Germany, like Xing or Xing is really, really popular. It's pretty much the same than LinkedIn, but for some reason, some people only are with Xing and not on LinkedIn, and the other way around. So just using different social medias can really help to find the right talent. And attraction kind of goes in hand with that, I'd say. There are a few things that you can definitely do. It kind of like goes in line as well with the staying a competitive employer, to be honest. But yeah, I'd be happy to just chat about a few things. For international candidates, what really matters, like I speak of experience myself relocating, and you can probably agree and share your thoughts on that as well. the international reputation really matters. It is good to see if the company is generally internationally present, or if they have international teams, or if they have diverse teams, just because you move to a complete new country and you try to find new friends, obviously, you try to adjust to a new culture. So having international reputation, or just having the advertisement of multilingual roles, will already help, because people assume, oh, that they must have a diverse team as well. So this is something you can definitely do. In terms of attraction as well, well, like it's hard. It's kind of like once again in line with being a competitive employer. Yes.
Yeah. So when you recruit, or when you're trying to find a talent in specific local market, like a lot of our clients basically like send recruiters or hire someone on the ground there to bring in talents. But like when you recruit remote and you want to target specific like niche talent in certain countries that much people, would you, besides like saying like you mentioned, would there be any strategy or like some other websites, or like that would be like a central for someone who look for a job to work in Europe, for example, and they could search Ireland?
Yeah, so what works as well is using different job boards. So there are also local like job platforms that you could use that are just a little different. So obviously LinkedIn is really well known. So lots of people would probably put on that they're willing to relocate, that they're looking for a job in Ireland. But I also recruit in Germany. And when that's the case, I also try to advertise it on the local German job boards, just because it has higher visibility. I have higher rates of application as well. So I just get so many more applications through them. And you could probably, one thing you could probably try is if you hire, like if you were hiring somewhere else, just advertise it on all the different job boards.
To the local job boards. For example, like in the APAC, for example.
Yeah.
Like, do you have an example of the countries in the APAC you've been trying
to relocate to Ireland, is it?
Yeah.
You could just try to post the job there, and then put in like a little description that you're looking for people that are willing to relocate to Ireland. So it is still posted in the local region.
Okay.
But you're looking for people that would like to move to Ireland and consider a relocation. That could work. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's new.
Spilling all the tea here. Yeah. But there are a few things as well that you probably kind of need to consider when hiring the multilinguals and looking for the talent, to be honest. Like it is really relevant to just consider, oh, what languages do we even look for? And what is the proficiency, the level of proficiency? Because if you're just looking for someone who might be able to have a conversation, or is mainly doing, let's say, administrative pieces of it, and is doing the administration mostly, and is maybe only answering a few messages here and there, it might be proficient enough to have someone like a general fluency, like a B1, B2 level. But if you're really looking for someone to explore a market, to get out there, phone calls, one phone call after another, having cold calling, then you probably need like a native speaker. But this really changes the recruitment strategies as well, right? Because you don't need someone from that region who has the native experience.
Yeah.
That kind of changes the recruitment process and the length of it as well. Because it is so much harder to find a native speaker versus someone who speaks it on a conversational level, if you get me.
Yeah, and you said like one of the very, very challenging markets.
Yeah.
We saw India, that they have different dialects.
Oh yeah. So in general, like India, so they have loads of different accents or dialects. So it is, I work with a client right now, and we do have different, like we're looking for certain dialects, so that's a little trickier. I'm not as used to this probably as like Germans. It's quite easy for me to force. But it's really interesting to see, that there is loads of movement on the multilingual market and across languages. Like once again, German, Dutch, Nordics would be highest in demand, but I still recruit at the moment for Japanese, Bulgarian. I have a Turkish speaking role open. So there is lots of movement across languages. That you can try to find the workforce first here, and so in Ireland, And if you feel like, okay, the recruitment process is getting really long, you can try to either offer like remote options, you know, to get more top talent, or then to just search beyond the scope of Ireland in the local countries.
Oh. That's a
yeah
neat strategy there.
yeah it is probably harder to convince people to come to Ireland if they've never considered it in the first place, but there will always be a few people really open-minded and interested in relocating. You just kind of need to sell it then to them.
Their high interest in relocating here, because like Ireland became one of the top
it
attractive countries
is
for expat or international talents to relocate for work. That's still ranked there this year.
Yeah, it is, because once again, there's lots of opportunity here for multilingual candidates, lots of multilingual roles, a good career progression opportunity, and also, which is funny because people actually know this outside of Ireland. It was nominated one of the friendliest cities in Europe. So this is kind of attractive enough for people to relocate. Yeah, it is really friendly. You should definitely consider it. Get in touch with me. Yeah, but just in general, I'd say this is kind of the different strategies that you can follow. One thing that might also matter or matters in the recruitment speed and in general how to kind of come up with an attractive offer would be the contract type. I briefly touched upon this, but there are certain cultures that would be more willing to go for a temporary contract or fixed term contract, whereas other cultures would only go for a permanent role, or most likely. So if you kind of take all the cultural differences once again into consideration and adjust your recruitment process, it will definitely change the speed of the recruitment and the success rate, I'd say. Like
the type of the contract.
Yeah, as well. Like for instance, I realized I work with lots of Italian speakers as well, and loads of them are happy enough to relocate, and they would probably go for a temporary contract as well, even if it's like just like 3 or 6 months. Whereas like German candidates or Dutch candidates would most likely prefer a permanent contract, and they wouldn't really relocate for something temporary. It's just a stability reason, to be honest. Like I'd say, like in Germany, I also hire once again in Germany. It's like I have to fill like a few temporary roles, and it was tricky enough, just because it's so established to have permanent contracts. And it's just, I think, a way of thinking people will bring over as well when applying for jobs, that they would expect something similar. Yeah, but if you just kind of adjust your strategies to all this and take cultural differences into consideration, it will change the recruitment speed and success.
Well, that's a difference, isn't it? That like one culture could affect the preference of like relocating to a new country.
Yeah. 100%. One final thing is about the recruitment process itself. It might be interesting to chat about how it's currently looking like, what is from a multilingual perspective and accepted with my candidates. And I experience that usually between like 2 and 3 steps would be really accepted. Like my candidates are happy enough to go with them. Even if you do a language assessment, there's not usually, people are happy enough to do a language assessment because they're confident in their skills. So this is really well accepted. And one thing I would really need to highlight is, like, I know that there's a trend also going back to on-site interviews. Still loads of my clients would do virtual interviews, but there's kind of a trend. But I get that it's so handy to meet up in person. Like it's such a different, like we had so many tests, right? Yeah. And it's such a different experience having candidates on site, but at the same time, you might limit yourself to in finding
getting the
talents, yes, because they might be in the process of relocating, and this goes beyond the multilingual market in general. Like if you limit yourself to the relocation, to on-site interviews, while candidates are in the process of relocating, you just lose good candidates as well. Yeah.
How about the marketing here in Ireland that you don't have to get them relocated here? How about the market over here? Because Ireland's education industry is huge, and we probably bring in a lot of international.
So in general, how the relocation is like?
No, like would you also target the talents that are already based here? In
Oh,
Ireland?
100%, yeah. So we usually start off with the talent, or I usually start with searching talent here locally. And once again, there's a limited workforce. There are certain languages that are so sought after, so it's hard to find or to convince them to make a move, especially if they're in a very stable spot. And I know that the market is changing a lot or has changed a lot, and there's a little uncertainty on the market as well. So the offer, which we will talk about in just a minute, needs really good to make a move. But I would always start off with a local talent, and then if this is not really successful, I would go into the local. Sorry, with the local market, I mean here in Ireland, and then I would go to the desired country. So if I look for, let's say, a Dutch speaker, I would try to source them in the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands,
yeah,
to come here
instead
of ones that live here. Is it limited numbers, or is it any challenge that they think that like they finish the degree, they go back home? Or
yeah, so it really much depends on the role and the level of the role. You can definitely look into the early career. So after the graduates, that's definitely a good market and a good target group. But once again, it is a limited workforce. There are a certain amount of speakers in Ireland. We do have some stats on this as well. So if anyone is interested, just reach out to me. I can also do a quick market research. But there are certain numbers available, and especially people that would be considering a change. And then the offer needs to be really good just because it's so competitive. Like we have, let's say, this amount of Dutch speakers, and if they're all, let's say, go for a sales role, they will be very sought after, and they can basically choose. So it is a tough market at the moment, but it's not impossible. It just probably is a little slower in the process finding the right talent. And once again, if you kind of adjust your strategy and say, look, we'll try to find someone in the Netherlands coming over. We can expand the search and can go into the local talent in the Netherlands to come over to Ireland. Yeah. But I would start off with Ireland probably. Depends on the language. If the language is still here present. Yeah. I'd say this is just a few of the strategies. Would anyone have questions about this, or if you have questions, just pop it in the chat.
Yeah. I will hit Leah with questions.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, look, we will definitely have a little time at the end anyway. I might just go into the final thing from my side, and then you're going to cover the Irish immigration market. So strategies that you can definitely follow. This is probably why also lots of you have joined this webinar. Once again, before we dive into this, I just want to say one more time, it is a very competitive market. So it is really necessary that an offer is not only fair, but it's a really good offer for loads of candidates who make a move. Once again, there's limited workforce available, so it is really necessary to take a few things into consideration before also offering, before even starting off the search in a sense, I'd say. But yeah, talking about the offer. So one thing is what I kind of said earlier, the contract type. So it matters to take this into consideration that if you're looking for the languages are really hard to fill, do consider maybe a permanent contract if obviously you can. We will find candidates that are happy enough to go for a temporary contract, but it will take a little longer. And especially if you are planning on hiring that person in the long run, but you're just starting off with a temporary or fixed term contract, just have a good think about it before offering this. Then the salary matters. I actually haven't talked about this before, I believe, but the salary differs based on the language requirements. So once again, the languages I just named there a few times, German, Dutch, and Nordic would have higher expectations. They're just really sought after, and they know it. They would really need to look, or they usually look for a really good offer to make a move, to relocate. It is just kind of reflecting in the market that they would go for a higher salary, whereas other languages would be happy enough with the average market.
Yeah.
It obviously depends on the years of experience and so on, but the salary matters. And one thing that makes you a really attractive employer is if you stay realistic as well. Like for instance, Spanish, Portuguese speakers, so from Portuguese, or Italians come over, and whenever I have chats with them, they just give me an expectation that's really low. And it's just because here Ireland is so much more expensive, so the salary is higher. And whenever I say like, yeah, you could probably go for this and that on average, they're like, oh, this is a lot. And I'm like, this is pretty much, you know, the average for your years of experience of the types of roles you would be looking for. And I'd say it's really important that companies don't take advantage of it and just be like, oh, you're looking for 24K, then we'll offer this, because 24K is like, you can't live. And if you want to really maintain talent as well and retain them in the long run, they might leave within like 2 months after this because they realize, oh, Dublin is expensive, I can't live with 24K. So I'd say to stand out as an employer, offer salaries based, you know, on the average rate here, take the languages into consideration and make sure that it's a fair offer, and career growth opportunities. What I mean by this is, especially if you have graduates, they would be looking for a good opportunity to grow in their career. It could be that they might start off as a BDR, then they want to go to account executives, or even just the possibility to participate in the different programs in like learning programs, learning courses, if you offer this, or any additional like studies that they can do part-time, or just in general, the possibility to professionally grow. This is what I see and realize lots of my candidates would be looking for, or just even to have the option to participate in a learning course. Like just, just to know that I can grow professionally and develop my skills while also growing in the company, and they kind of might be able to get to a good level like in 1 or 2 years. That would be like cool, I'd say. Benefits that might also go beyond the typical salary would matter as well, and their cultural differences really matter again. And so for my Germans and my Dutch candidates, they would love to have like a pension scheme, health insurance, dental insurance, or life insurance. These type of things, they do kind of matter to them a lot, and might even then lower the salary. Like they just like loads of them would be like, I expect to have a pension scheme, or I expect to have health insurance, and you can really attract certain cultures and certain talents by offering these benefits, which is kind of nice to know. And if you just have a look into different cultures again, and if you just are aware what the different cultures would kind of expect and what's common on their market, it will 100% help you in recruiting some talents. Social events for international candidates as well. Like if you have a good social community, if you have, like for instance, Morgan McKinley has a White Rebel Club, you can just do and participate in like social events every now and then. It definitely helps to take the nerves as well, because they might be able to adjust to a new culture quicker, and just know, okay, that the company really cares about their employees. Another thing would be remote options. Like we just chatted about this earlier. Like you guys are quite doing quite well on this, and but remote options. I know there's loads of benefits on working on site, and when there's a trend going back on site, like hybrid work or even full 5 days on site work is kind of the go-to now. So really there has been a switch, but there is really good multilingual professionals spread across Ireland. So if you are willing to offer remote options or really the hybrid work, some more flexibility, you can attract a different talent pool. And especially for the language, so some languages are just really hard to fill. This might open up a completely different like pool of talent. So taking remote options into consideration might really help and make you stand out. And I really mean it will make you stand out as an employer, because there's been a massive shift going back to the office. Yeah, just in terms of other like 2 or 3 more things to share from my side, and then I think I've covered. We talked about this a lot, and it is the relocation support. Like it would really really attract more candidates if you offer any sort of relocation support, could be just covering luggage, could be paying a flight, could be paying 2 weeks of accommodation, a month of accommodation, taking over the visa approval or work permits. And this really makes you stand out as an employer. It's so rare here in Ireland. I have a few of my clients that would be willing to cover a little bit, but the relocation package would be really make you stand out as an employer. And once again, it could be just paying a flight. And if you kind of like average it out with the salary, that they're more than happy enough to do so, or even have it as an additional benefit. And when we do speak about the multilingual talents or international talents, and you can probably relate just as much as I can. So, you know, we base our lives here, where we live here now. This is our home, but at the same time, it is so nice every now and then to visit family. And I realized that I do receive this question from my candidates, just asking like, is it possible to work 2 or 3 weeks per year from home? Because I would like to see my family. I would like to see my friends
home.
In the real home. Yes, in the original, you know, like, so it is so great if an employer can actually say, even if it's a full on-site work week, just say like, yeah, you know what, can work 1 week from home. That is fine for us, because they just understand that, you know, they kind of like shifted their whole life over to Ireland, and just allow them to work remotely and for a week, and a week is over so quickly. So I'd say if you allow this will really set you apart, and this is what my candidates are usually asking for.
Yeah, that's one of the things as well, that like an employer might be like freaked out when candidates or even recruiter, like when candidates say, would the employer, or would you sponsor us to move to Ireland, or or sponsor? What does that mean? Like when you say sponsor, so I go into that later. But just totally agree with you about the benefits of hiring international talent. It doesn't have to be from abroad; it can be from here as well. Besides languages, the culture is so important about bringing and harmonize that with the Irish culture or with the other culture that already exists in the organization. And the thing about hiring internally international that base in Ireland graduates, they're here for like a year or even 4 years or even longer than that. If they study in high school, they know the Irish culture, they're familiar with how the industry operates, so they know how the business runs. So when you hire them, besides you get the language skill, you get the culture from them, and you get that benefit that they get used to how the business here operates. So that's a lot of plus in that as well. When talking about hiring international talents, people will think like, oh, they have to bring in from abroad. September now, graduate season, so that's why I bring this up as well. So I think hiring internally would be another thing that you can consider as an employer. And in terms of the immigration side that I'm going to get into is that visa first, of course, we have clients that like hiring from abroad, and we just we get a lot. Like last week or last couple of weeks, I got the stats in that there were around 10,000 Indians that relocated here in 2022, and there was around nearly 40,000 permits for international talents for relocating here. So that's a huge amount of like a traffic of foreigners moving here. So that's why I see that like there will be a lot of also like multilingual talents as well that relocate here. So what we do is that what I would explain to you is when you target the talents coming here to Ireland, there will be visa and work permits, of course, and work permit is the right to work, visa is the right to enter. So let's say but you German, so you need.
For me it was very easy.
Was about to give example. No,
I'm the first example here, but perfect. So no, for me, I'm a European citizen, so I just had to.
You don't need that. But when you hire someone like from non-EU national, let's say, there's two separate things like employment permit is the right to work, visa is the right to enter the country, so separate thing. There's certain nationalities as well that would need the visa. So as in recruitment process at the forefront, like a front gate
Yeah.
of hiring process. So knowing this would be beneficial so that you know the timeline
Yeah.
of this process when you hire someone like from the APAC market, for example,
Yeah.
they need visa, they need permits to come to this country. So you know this in mind that like how much time that this candidate should know, and also the employer, your client, should know as well to hire this candidate. So when you know this process, you communicate clearly with the candidates. So if they're okay with that, so the hiring process will be flowing. There wouldn't be any issue when like there would be certain issue when candidate waits too long and they give up.
Yeah.
For example, so if you communicate this clearly, you'll be able to know, you'll be able to know the processing time and plan ahead. And the other interesting thing is that when I mentioned hiring internally, is that who's the target if you want to hire internally? Like what kind of market? I call market basically stamp holder. We call it stamp. So it's a type of visa.
Yeah.
So when you enter the country, you get the visa before. But when you land here, we get to stamp, like I'm on stamp 4, for example, that I don't need employment permits. But why other people that come in to work here, French, they will hold stamp 1. I call it work visa, I call that short word. So if you hire them stamp 1, they just want to change employer, for example, you target them stamp 1. The other thing is I mentioned graduates, stamp 1G. So this, a good thing for employer is that when you hire graduates, most of them will hold stamp 1G if they're on graduate, finished graduate program. So you can hire them without, they can work without holding employment permits for a year or 2, depending on their degree. Let's say you want to hire Indian speaking talent that finished degree here into multilingual law for a tech industry. And then you can source that talent to your clients. And they don't need a permit for a year. So that's great. Like that could be a graduate program, for example. And also, with that in mind, it's a good pathway when you hire graduates over here. When they work for a year or they work for 2 years, depending on their condition, they can they can get the permits after that. So one important thing, like me and Leah chat before this webinar, that like employer might get confused or panicked when candidate asks like sponsor. Like sponsor, do I need to pay? Is it financially responsibility, or is it something else? So I don't know why like they call sponsor, but it's not something that you need to like. It's nothing to do with financially. It's sponsor basically. You just provide them documents, like because Irish employment permits, you need employees document, of course, and employers document. That's it. In terms of fees and costs, it all depends on the contract, like how you agree with the prospect yourself. So just to let you know that like to sponsor someone is not about just financially sponsor. It's mainly about to get them and agree with them that like just talk to them that like this is what we can do, this is how much we can support. So just employment permit again, just need employees documents, employer documents. And it's not it's complicated, it's a lot of paperwork, yes, but it's still like it's still the process that being developed at the moment and we modernized within this year. So a lot to look forward for, a lot to look forward to in terms of the Irish immigration, because they mentioned the end of last year that they will merge both of the system between employment permit and visa together in one single application. So I still look forward to see that as well, to see what it's going to be like in terms of the timeline. It's not as bad as before, it's online, it's less paperless, but yeah, really looking forward to that. So I
think it's really important what you said there also with the sponsorship piece, because there's so many candidates that are willing to cover the financial side of things as well. And they just need someone to take over the administrative bits and bobs. So there is the opportunity to really get good candidates from abroad as well, or even if they're already based here. And the 1G stamp is also a good thing. Like I think lots of people are not aware that when there is so a graduate with a higher education, they will get the 1G stamp for 1 year and can extend it for another year. So it's 2 years, right? That they can
Yeah.
work until they have to apply again.
Yeah, if they on bachelor, if they finish the bachelor, they get a year to seek the employment. They can work with an employment permit. That's good for both parties, to be honest. And for master, they get 2 years. And yeah, that's good for both. When I say like employees will get a pathway because they get a permit after that if they get an offer that they would have that the employer wants to provide documents to support them. And after they get an employment permit and they hold for a certain amount of years, that's another pathway to get stamped for like long-term, another long-term type of condition over here. And it's another pathway to get citizenship as well. So like it's a lot,
There's a lot to it.
It's a long-term process. So it depends on each individual as well, like what they want. And but anyway, like graduate seems to be very, very popular now.
Yeah.
From I think recently a lot of times mentioned that, and also we have been processed and filling the roles that they work for like a year or two on some and then the employer basically then longer term. So
they're really interesting, like a really interesting target group, being honest, because they bring the language skill. Like loads of students come over from abroad to study here, and then they can apply afterwards for the visa, or if they are European citizens, they can work right away. And they bring the language skill, they bring a fresh perspective into a company, you know, like just out of college, maybe they learn some new and different theories and whatever. They just bring a different approach and maybe help you to think out of the box sometimes.
Yeah.
And for certain roles, especially like in the sales, if you're looking for entry level candidates, it is a lot about the skill, about the soft skill, or you know, like not just the experience, but being a good communicator, being able to build up the relationships, and or the interpersonal skills again that are really necessary to have someone in a sales role, like what I said. So it's a good target group. It's a good group to reach out to and to consider, and maybe keeping them here in Ireland before they then move back after their graduation.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of candidates that come here to study either like I say, like Indians, Chinese, even Brazilians, South Africans, or like German, like all nationalities that move here. And Ireland's still an attractive country to live, and I believe that there's a lot of good opportunity here with the industries that have been growing in Ireland at the moment. It doesn't have to be tech only, it could be pharmaceutical, it could be healthcare, it could be construction, even in STEM, like in industry just growing at the moment. So those, you know better than I do, like those industry needs people over here in Ireland, and it would be great to offer them like people who just graduate from here in Ireland. So
we have like two questions here. So
I think my colleagues
is already answering a little bit, but it might be interesting for the general audience here. So one question is about in general, like how is it looking like having visa sponsorship jobs? So jobs that offer visa sponsorship in Ireland. So just from a multilingual perspective, there are a few companies, like as you said, there's a good few companies being afraid of the word sponsorship. It doesn't necessarily need to be the financial aspect, more the administrative bits and bobs. But there's just a few companies, being honest, that would offer the visa sponsorship, that would take over the process. So if this is something you would consider, definitely might as well, because it could be very beneficial to just attract and find different talent. But yeah, generally speaking, a few clients would do, but it's a case by case basis, really, being honest. Some do, some don't.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure that I have a QR code that would share on the screen nearly the end of the webinar, so that like you can reach out to me and ask if there's any question about visas and permit support. Doesn't have to either your employer or employees. Like I'm happy to have a quick chat with you. Any questions?
Yeah, the other one's also about the permanent residency, but your colleague answered that already.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, just generally speaking, if you are considering hiring multilingual talents, I'd say just feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to also share some more stats with you, like market research. I know it is a confusing market and definitely an emerging market as well, and it's massively growing. So feel free to reach out to either myself or Noon. We have a few more minutes, so if you do have any questions,
Yeah,
just pop them in the chat.
with the questions. It's a very competitive market. I think I've been following with the last year as well, that like in Ireland, right after the pandemic, had it's been competitive so far, and the numbers.
Yeah, it's
skyrocketing.
a very unpredictable market as well. Like there has been a shift, as I said, from customers more to sales. So it wasn't acquired in the beginning, but since like Q2, Q3, it really picked up again. So I do have a good few openings at the moment in the sales area. It could be customer support, but it's mostly sales for me. And once again, it is very competitive for certain languages, just because there's so much potential in acquiring new business in the EMEA region. So it's a good market for companies, I'd say, to explore and expand.
It is very interesting topic today.
Yeah.
This webinar, I'm so happy, and I hope that everyone, if you missing out any details or would like to ask us more questions, I'm sure that we can get back to you either on the chat box or even the Q&A session there. Me and Leah will get back to that. I'm sure that you have your contact details at the event link as well. You can find our contact there. So very delighted to be here with you, Leah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, and I'd like to thank everyone as well for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
so much. Take care.
Bye.